I did my initial schooling from Scottish Public School, Katihar. Katihar is a district in Bihar. Thereafter, I did my class 10th from DAV Koilanagar, Dhanbad. Then I did my class 12 from Delhi Public School, Ranchi. I cleared IIT JEE examination in 2011. I secured a seat in Computer Science and Engineering at IIT BHU, Varanasi. I graduated from the college in 2015. I had got a pre-placement offer at Samsung Research and Development Institute, Bangalore. I worked there for 5 months, and thereafter I left for civil services preparation. I had given one attempt in 2015, but I could not clear prelims by 11 marks. Then I came to Delhi in January 2016 and started preparation on my own. Then I gave prelims in 2016 and I fell short by like 7 marks. I fell short by 7 marks. So that was my 2 successive failures in preliminary examination. And then I kept my motivation high because I knew that I was good at writing answers. So I knew that if I can somehow clear prelims, I will probably score good in maths also and clear the examination. So I kept myself up. In meanwhile, I also gave assistant commandant examination conducted by UPSC. I secured All India rank 1, so that was a major confidence booster for me because I was feeling very low after getting eliminated in the preliminary exam itself. So in 2017, this was my 3rd attempt in which I got successful, and I would give my marks also about what I scored. My marks in mathematics was 299 out of 500, and my correct attempt was 360. 200 in paper 1 and 160 in paper 2. So that will give you some idea about what the scaling factor is. So I got 299 marks, and my marks in general studies was 482. So that's my story, and my marks in essay were 151, and my score in interview was 167. So that is my basic introduction. I will discuss more about the strategy later on. I think you should first introduce.
I'm from Ajmer in Rajasthan. I did my schooling from Ajmer only, born and brought up in Ajmer. Then I joined BITS Pilani in 2011. I was there from 2011 to 2016. It was a 5-year course in mechanical engineering and biological science. It was a dual degree course. Then I passed out in 2016, wrote my first attempt in 2016 itself. I reached till the interview stage in my first attempt in the civil service examination. And if you're not aware about the Indian Forest Service examination, then I will tell you something about it. This examination has a same prelim examination as the civil service examination, but the cutoff is usually 10 to 15 marks higher than the civil service examination, the prelim cutoff. So I managed to clear the prelim cutoff of Indian Forest Service examination in my first attempt, and thereon got AIR 3 finally in Forest Service examination. Then I rewrote the examination, civil services, and this time I secured 86 rank. Let's follow the protocol. So this time in maths I got a little bit less marks, 285, but still I feel that 285 is a pretty good score as compared to other students in mathematics who have got to 350, 367, 368, 375. These are the toppers. But still I feel that 285 is a decent score, is a very good score if you see all the selected candidates. So, but I scored more in GS. In GS my total score was 470. In essay it was average-ish, around 138 I scored in essay. And interview my score was 162.
Scored All India rank 162 in my 6th attempt. I come from Mirzapur district of Uttar Pradesh. From there I did my initial schooling from government school in Hindi medium, and till 12th standard I never visited any places beyond my home district. So when I secured a very good marks in 12th standard, so people suggested that you should prepare for IITs. So after my 12th I started preparing for IITs, and then I cleared IIT and allotted mechanical engineering in IIT Gandhinagar in 2008. So from 2008 to 2012 I did my BTech in mechanical engineering, and after completing my graduation in 2012 I worked for 1.5 years with the government of Gujarat, Ministry of Urban Development. While working there, I also started preparing for this examination and attempted this examination for the first time in 2012. In which in GS paper 1 I got only 6 marks out of 200 maximum possible. But then that did not demotivated me to prepare further, and I again prepared for the second time, and in 2013 I failed by 6 marks in the preliminary examination. But then I was so close, so I prepared again for the third attempt. I cleared preliminary in third attempt, then mains in fourth attempt, and then in the fifth attempt I got 832 rank, and this time I got 162 rank, and I will be getting IAS this time. So in the sixth attempt I finally getting my desired service. Earlier two interviews I appeared in interview in English medium, but this time I switched the medium to Hindi medium, and compared to last 2 years score I did well in the interview. That's why I got a good rank this time. So it was most of a hit and trial method that worked for me well. In my third attempt, that was my first mains, I scored only 374 marks out of 1715, and the cutoff was around 678. So I was below 300 by the cutoff. But then in the each subsequent attempt I improved upon my previous scores, and even in the last attempt I cleared this Indian Forest Service examination preliminary for the first time. So with each subsequent attempt my scores were increasing only. It was like monotonically increasing scores. So that was my motivation for preparing for the 6 consecutive attempts. And it was like wave-shaped graph for me. In each subsequent attempt, my prelims, my mains, and my interview scores always increasing. Although sometimes it was very less, but then it always kept increasing, and that was motivating factor for me. Last time I scored 286 in mathematics optional only because of I did some calculation mistakes in paper 1. But then I rectified those mistakes in this attempt, and I scored pretty good marks in mathematics, that is 331, and it's because of that good marks I secured a good rank this time. That's all about me. Thank you.
Many of you will be appearing in prelims this year, like on 3rd June of 2018. Nobody is appearing. Alright, fine. How many of you are planning to appear next year, like in June 2019? Most of you. Fine. So first of all, I would like to begin with my experience with preliminary examination. I have seen 2 failures in preliminary examination. I have seen my scores increase from 96 to 109, and this year 120. So I will tell you what I did, what were the kind of mistakes that I made in the earlier 2 attempts. So I think that will help you more. See, in my first attempt, I read all the books that are recommended, like M. Lakshmikant for polity and the NCRTs. I went through all the books, I revised also, but what I did not do was I didn't solve I think a single test paper. So that was the biggest mistake I did in 2015. Thereafter, in the next attempt, I solved 4 to 5 test papers. I think that was not sufficient. So I think that is the most important takeaway that you can take with you home, is that you have to solve as many questions as much as possible. Is it fine? Okay. Apart from this, you have to keep your resources limited. Don't try to read like too many books of a single subject. Instead, you should focus on solving questions, and also make notes of whatever questions you are solving. And don't just go through the answer, also go through the explanation of the test series, explanation of the answers. And one more important thing, current affairs, newspaper reading is very much important, not just in preliminary examination from mains to interview. Newspaper is very important. Nowadays there are so many current affairs booklets that are available. Don't fall into that trap, because in mains it will be very difficult to write good answers. So newspaper reading is a must. If I have to single out one particular aspect of my entire preparation that helped me secure only rank 13 in this examination, was the habit of reading newspapers. While I was in my 4th year of college, I started reading newspapers. Initially I used to read the Hindu, but later I shifted to the Indian Express because I like the explained page of Indian Express very much. That is why I shifted to Indian Express, but you can follow any one of the 2 newspapers. So newspaper reading and test series for now. These two are the important points. Then coming to the preliminary examination, how many questions you have to attempt in the examination is also very important. You have to optimize your number of attempts. If you under attempt or if you over attempt, you are going to get eliminated for sure. So you have to somehow, after solving so many test series, you will get to know that by solving how many questions you are optimizing your score. In my case, it was like 80 to 85 number of questions. When I used to solve, I used to get the optimum mark. So this you have to arrive for yourself, that what is your optimum number of questions that you need to attempt. Are you getting my point? Alright. Then in preliminary examination, there are few topics that you need to focus more upon. What I mean to say is, let's take for example the current affair. This is very important because 30 questions almost will be directly lifted from current affairs. Then if you take polity like M. Lakshmikant, there will be almost 15 to 20 questions that occur every year. Then take for example Sankar IAS, since Indian Forest Service, as my colleague has just said, it has a common preliminary examination. So questions will definitely be there from that Sankar IAS book is there, no, environment. So you have to read that meticulously. You should not leave any chapter. Like Lakshmikant, you have to read from cover to cover. Similarly, Sankar IAS book you have to read from cover to cover. So I think these three things, current affairs, polity as well as Sankar, this is a very important pillar of preliminary examination because you will have maximum questions from these three sources. Then there are few other sources like art and culture where yield will be relatively lower. So you have to prioritize your preparation of preliminary examination. When you have to revise while your examination is like 1 month away, that do keep this thing in mind, that you have to prioritize that what are those sources where there will be maximum number of questions. So first revise that source and then gradually move to the other sources. Then coming back to mains, the selection of optional subject is key to your success. I have seen many aspirants changing their optional subject from geography to mathematics or from any other humanity to other optional subject. I believe that most of you would be having some sort of affinity for mathematics. That is why you are sitting here. How many of you have read mathematics in your graduation in one subject or other? That is a fairly good number. So I think that you have a general liking towards this subject. A few points I would like to share about mathematics. The positives is that it is quite certain in the sense that once you come out of examination, you will have a fair amount of idea about what kind of scores you may expect. While I came out of my paper 1, I knew that I had attempted more than like 200 out of 250. So I knew that my scores would be around 150 plus in paper 1. Then I went to the examination for attempting paper 2. Paper 2, since last 2 years, if you see, the questions have become a little more dynamic, not too conventional in the sense. So my attempt in paper 2 was only 160. But still, if you see, compared to humanities optional, you will be scoring higher in mathematics. So that is a good thing, and you have certainty, because in general studies or in essay paper, you don't have that certainty. How many of you are comfortable in Hindi? So this is the thing. Then the negative point with mathematics optional is that the syllabus is large and intimidating at first sight. But from my experience, I can tell you is that if you go through the IMS notes, most of your work will be done. From my experience, I can tell you I did not solve any book of mathematics. I only solved the IMS notes. So that is the best part with mathematics, that you have resource available. The entire syllabus you can cover through IMS notes. I did not solve any question from the book. Then the test series part of mathematics, if you see, IMS test series is very comprehensive, that if you come and solve regularly, it is very important to attempt test series on schedule. Don't delay it, don't postpone it. Suppose the test is scheduled on the coming Sunday, just come and give the test, don't postpone it. Irrespective of your preparation, you should come and attempt the test. This is very important. I have seen people delaying tests, and that will cost you dear. So you have to attempt tests as per schedule, and whatever mistakes you have made in the test series, try to minimize that. Is it fine? Then do not get overexcited by your scores. If you are getting very high scores in test series, you should not get overexcited. You should not get confident if you are not getting. So you have to maintain your balance. One more very important point is that you have to maintain a balance between your general studies preparation as well as your mathematics options, because I have seen people getting so much inclined towards mathematics that they are completely ignoring the general studies or essay paper, as well as the other way around. There are many people who will keep studying general studies. So you have to maintain a balance. If you see my scores, I feel that it is a little more balanced. So I think that works. So you have to maintain a balance between the general studies preparation as well as the maths, because it is very difficult to score on an extreme side. If you want to score 360 plus, I believe it requires a lot of effort, but you can easily score 280 plus in mathematics, I think, with very minimal effort, which will require probably a larger effort in humanities optional subject. Then as regards the essay preparation, I would like to tell a few points. I did not take any test series for essay. I just wrote 4 to 5 tests on my own. So I don't think that a lot of preparation is required for essays, but you should have a good understanding of what and how an essay is written. If you have that understanding, then you can prepare on your own also. One more thing about newspaper reading and note making. I have seen people wasting a lot of time on making notes from newspapers, which I never did. Because I believe that there are so many current affairs booklets that are available in market, you can simply go and read them. So I did read newspapers, but I never made any notes out of it. So this you can decide for yourself, maybe that works for you. One more important thing I would like to mention here is, whatever strategies I or my dear colleagues would be sharing with you, do take them with a pinch of salt. That may not work for you. What work for me may not work for you, and what will work for you may not work for me. So this is very simple. So always try to think that your strategy is the best. Whatever plans we are sharing, if that works for you, just incorporate them. Is it fine? And regarding interview, just fill your DAF very carefully. I have seen people making mistakes while filling DAF. They fill DAF during the end of the timeline, and you will make mistakes. So you fill DAF very carefully. Keep your DAF very simple. If you are not very proficient in any of your hobby, don't mention that. Because if you fill your DAF with full of achievements that you have to deliver as per your achievements, expectation will be very high. Because if you have filled all your good achievements, you have boasted about your personality, then you have to deliver accordingly. So you have to be a little careful there. Is that fine? Then be honest. Basic guidelines, all of you know. I would like to take questions from you, because that will be more interactive. Rather than being a monologue session, I would like you to put some questions. Then my dear colleagues will be taking this session forward. Yeah, please.
My first question: How many of you have decided that you will be taking mathematics? Who all have? Okay, fine. So all of you. So have you joined IMS coaching or not? Who all have joined IMS coaching? Fine, then that's good. Okay, so now I'll be starting with preliminary examination. See, my focus on prelim was very high, because when I studied for prelim, I only had one thing in mind. If I score high in prelim, I'll be having two benefits. One, I'll be getting through Indian Forest Service examination cutoff. Number two, I will not have to worry about my prelim cutoff while preparing for mains. See, prelim result come after 1 month, and if you are at the border, you will always be thinking about whether I make it or not. If you are scoring very high in prelim, let's say 20 above the cutoff, then you will have no worries and you will be peacefully studying for main. So scoring high in prelim should be your target, not clearing the cutoff. That was my strategy. Now, how I studied for prelim? First of all, of course, I covered the basics, and trust me, if you cover the basics, like basic books, as Sagar mentioned, Lakshmikant for polity, Shankar IAS for environment, some basic books for economics. If you cover these books, then you will be easily getting 90, 100 marks in prelim, in any test series paper of any coaching institute or any UPSC paper. But the tough road starts after 100 marks. If you know the basics, any day you will be getting 100 marks easily. But now, to score more than 100 marks, to go till 120, 130, 140, then you will have to dig up deeper. because you will have to pick up some basic things. For example, let's talk about environment. Now, they are asking question on some national park. Now, if they are asking one question about some national park, then we can take an idea that in next year they can ask about any national park. So, try to study all the national parks, at least the famous one. So basically you need to get the idea from past year UPSC papers which sort of questions they are asking. Now last year they asked some, before last year also, they asked some environment organizations. Now this means that not any other organization, but they are focusing more on environment organizations. Now if you are thorough with all the environment organizations, who all body founded that organization, what is the area of work of that organization. So you need to be thorough with that. And for this you will have to dig deeper, it will take time. People say that it requires a lot of cramming, but trust me, if you read it again and again and again, then it will not look like cramming. And I still feel that the knowledge that you people can gain from prelim examination will be much higher as compared to main examination. Mains is all about answer writing, all about showcasing what you have got, what knowledge you have gained. But while studying for prelim, you will have ample opportunity to make a strong case for yourself. You will be reading a lot of books. If you read it thoroughly, if you read it properly, then you will be developing your base for mains, and then only after that you will have to cover portions which are not covered in prelim, like world history, like ethics. So if you cover prelim, I am sure that GS1, GS2, GS3, most of the portion will be sorted out for mains as well. So yeah, this is about prelim. In main examination, again Sagar mentioned, making a balance between GS and maths is very important. To secure a good rank, I feel that you should not pick and choose any particular paper. I feel that if you are good at GS1 and if you believe that you are not good at GS2, then you need to brush up your knowledge of GS2 portion. If you feel that you are good in math 1 topics, not in math 2 topics, then you need to cover up. See, the basic thing that I feel is, if you are very good with all the courses, with all the subjects, with all the papers, then only you can think of getting a good rank. Because in the final exam, in the main exam, it happens. I have written 2 main examinations, and from my experience I can tell you that some or the other paper will get screwed up. Like in mathematics, this time my preparation was much better than last year. Still I ended up with 285 marks only. But this does not reflect my preparation. I was in the test series here, I was scoring much better in comparison to other students. At least with the good students, I was scoring good marks. But I scored 285. But only because of the fact that I covered my GS portion also thoroughly, I managed to get into IAS this time. So this should be taken care of, that be it essay paper, GS1, GS2, 3, 4, Math 1, Math 2, interview, every component of the examination is very important, and you should be preparing all the components equally, making a balance. Now, some strategies related to examination that I had, one was simulation. I always believed in simulation, be it prelim, mains or interview. By simulation I mean doing one thing again and again. Like for prelim, even in my first attempt, I solved 40 papers, 40 odd papers for prelim from some test series in the market. Now, if you are solving 40 papers and if you are keeping track of your marks of all the papers, then you will soon realize what is your capabilities, number one. Number two, you will realize where you are making negative marks. Like, let's say if you are attempting 80 questions in every prelim paper, in general studies prelim paper, and of that you are doing 70 correct, 10 incorrect, then after 30, 40, 50 papers, you will, by probability, we are mathematics student, if we do one thing again and again, then I as a mathematics student always trusted my probability of getting marks in prelim. So this became a model for me. I used to attempt 80 to 85 marks, And in my first cycle of prelim, while attempting the paper, I used to attempt 50 with full surety, 45, 50. Then I used to do again, and I usually managed to do around 80 to 85 questions, out of which I believed in myself that I will be getting 70, 71 correct. This was my strategy for both the years. Even in main examination, I believed in simulation. I wrote a lot of test series, lot of test papers on my own, joined some test series also. And I think for main examination, the most important thing is time management, because it's very important to complete the paper within time as well as write some very good content. So the first important thing is time management, that you are able to complete 20 questions in the given time. And the second thing is presenting your answer in a proper manner, because in UPSC usually the questions are dynamic. They ask 3 questions in one question. There are subparts in every question, so it's important that you give due weightage to every part. Like if there are 3 parts and if it's a 12 marker question, 12.5 marker question, then you need to balance in that question. So you should develop a habit that you're making this balance, you're addressing each and every part of the question as per the demand of the question. Yeah, this is about main examination. And even about the interview, I believed in simulation, gave a lot of mock interviews. I always feel that if we keep on practicing again and again, if we challenge ourselves in difficult circumstances, if you are ill someday, and then if you are going to write GS1 paper or Math 1 paper, coming here to write the test paper, then you will challenge your body, your mind to face these tough circumstances during the main examination or interview. So this prepares your mind. While talking about preparing your mind, you have to be very tough on yourself while the entire preparation. This requires a lot of effort. It causes a lot of pain sometimes. Most of our other friends are busy earning money. They are enjoying their lives on Facebook. They are traveling. They are chatting on WhatsApp. I think this is something that we need to avoid most of the time, because indulging ourselves, this is what I believed, indulging ourselves in lot of interaction with other people only decreases our time to prepare for this examination, at least for the first and second attempt, I feel. Because if all of you are writing your first attempt, then you should be go all guns blazing, at least for the first attempt. After covering all the things in the first attempt, then you may get some time in the second attempt or third attempt or fourth attempt. But at least for this time, I think all of you should have a very thorough focus on the examination, and then only you will be able to crack it in first attempt or second attempt. So yeah.
For revising, for revising, what you can do is you can prepare a formula sheet of all the topics. What I did was, I think most of us do is, we prepare a formula sheet. Let's say for every topic, there are 13 topics in the syllabus. For each topic, you can prepare a formula sheet of around, or at least, or at max 20 pages. Around 20 pages, you can prepare a formula sheet. So you're getting my point. Important concepts, important questions, you can make a note, and you have to keep revising them before attempting test series. Writing test series, so you'll be revising them at least 18 times.
But you don't know that it's a good answer or not. It's very difficult to know at the beginner level that you are writing a geography or a sociology or a public administration answer as per the demand of the question. But in mathematics, you'll be very sure that this is examination. But as you're saying, in IIT, there are questions which are tricky in nature, where you have to apply your mind during the examination. At the time.
Doesn't go.
But in maths, I feel, again, he said what all questions you have seen before the examination. So there are 70% questions that you have seen before the examination. In those questions, you only have to find the answer. Just calculate and find the answer. You will be knowing the concept beforehand. But now UPSC has changed some pattern in paper 2 for the last 2 years. So at least, in paper 2 I felt that there are around 30%, 40% questions where I had to apply my mind at the time of the examination.
See, what they try to do is, in every question, there are 8 questions. In 8 questions, you will have some easy ones as well as some tough ones. So you have to select 5 questions accordingly. There is no rule of thumb that a particular topic will have easy questions always. So there will be cases where a topic will have easier questions. In some year, you will have questions on that topic that will be tougher. So you have to select judiciously. What I felt was that paper 2 is very tough in last 2 years and paper 1 is very easy, I would say. That is my personal opinion.
Ram's strategy was better. I used to attempt the easier questions in the test series, but he used to target even the difficult ones, even the difficult topics. So you have to do it, you have to challenge your mind at the time of the examination. Only then you will be able to face it in the mains.
Comes your mind. In paper 2, you would not be able to solve all the 5 questions. So what you can do is you can attempt questions. In the last half an hour, I was not able to solve any question because I had nothing to answer. So I kept on writing whatever came into mind, some theorems that are related to that. So I did that, honestly. So you have to do that. In paper 2, it is very difficult. In GS, I attempted all the questions, all 20 questions. In GS 1, 2 and 3. I think that you should attempt as much as you can because attempt matters.
So for current affairs, you relied primarily on the newspaper or you followed some magazines, etc.?
See, as I said, I read newspapers. I never made any notes out of it. So we did not just enroll in test series, we were a regular classroom student of IAS.
So the mode of language in interview, was it strict that if you have written that you will answer in English, then it's...
No. If you are not comfortable in English, what you can do is, just after entering into the interview hall, after taking seat, you can tell that, sir, I would be attempting my interview in bilingual mode. Wherever I will be comfortable, I can use both the language. So you can mention beforehand. Is that fine?
What is your take on textbook? Should we go beyond the notes of IMS or not?
See, if you see the kind of scores people are getting, you have to score very high in GS. Just by getting 400 marks, I think you will not be able to get a good rank. So what you can do is, first go through the IMS notes, solve test series, previous year question papers, and try to improve your GS scores. After that, if you have time, you can go through the textbooks of mathematics. This is my personal opinion. You want to add something on this?
I used a different approach. I used the books also, but only after revising the notes twice or thrice. Like for example, if I'm like Rising-Ani has a very famous book, Sir also recommends it. But only if you're done with OD and PD notes, then you can pick up the...
Be confident about writing answers in general studies. Then you can devote more time to mathematics. But if you are underconfident on writing answers in GS, then you have to devote larger time. So it completely depends upon what your strength is. In my case, I knew that if I will be knowing the content, I will be able to reproduce in the examination in GS. That is why I could give more time to maths after preliminary examination. So this will be your personal call. I cannot give you a rule of thumb कि ऐसा करना है, ठीक है? तो ये अपने हिसाब से you have to see what is your strength and weakness, and accordingly you can give time to maths as well as GS. This will be your personal strategy. Have any of you gone through my transcript? I have shared it on Quora, on some other platforms. No. Okay. So the first question that was asked from mathematics in interview was that suppose a laborer earns rupees 65 on the first day and 85 rupees on the next day. So what will be the average wage? So can anybody of you answer this question? Did you get the question? I repeat the question. A laborer earns rupees 65 on first day and 85 on the next day. What will be the average wage? Both the days, obviously both the days. It will be 75. Yeah, keep it simple. It is 75, right? Yeah. So the next question, I was applauded, very good. This question was asked to the chairman. Then comes the next question. Suppose a bus travels from A to B with a speed of 40 kilometers per hour and returns with 60 kilometers per hour. So what will be the average speed during the entire journey? So what is the answer? 48. It is not 50, right? Everyone agrees on this. So these were the two questions. And then the next question was, what kind of mean you used? Yeah, it is harmonic mean. So these were the three questions I asked. Yeah, you can continue with the questions. current affairs part. I think I have already answered. Just go through the newspapers, don't miss out, and then pick up any good current affairs magazine booklet and revise it again and again. There is no need of going through the other source. But yes, for preliminary examination, you will have to go through one more source for current affairs. Insights and vision compilations towards the end. You must be aware, right? Insights and vision compilations towards the end. Yeah, for preliminary examination. PT 365 as they call it. So that you can follow. I was extra cautious in my third attempt. I had attempted 2 prelims and I failed. So in the third attempt, I expanded my source. So if you are good at intelligent guessing, then you can minimize your sources and score equally well. So again, you will have to gauge your preparation level through test series and then take a call whether you want to expand the current affairs preparation or not. Getting my point now?
Yeah, but in case of current affairs, what about the other sources?
Supplement, it cannot complement the current affairs magazines as well as newspapers. You can use it when you are free, but that will not complement, it only supplement. Yeah, it is enough for mains. One more thing you can do for general studies mains is that go through the syllabus and prepare some content for each and every part of the syllabus. I did this. Are you getting my point? Go through the syllabus and make sure that every portion of the syllabus is well covered. Don't write very generalist answers for society part of the GS paper 1. Don't write very general answers for internal security. You have to be very particular. ठीक है?
सर मेरा 2 क्वेश्चन था. पहला राम सर से कि आपने सर कितना अटेम्प्ट किया था आउट ऑफ 500, और सेकंड था कि सर टॉपर्स के ब्लॉग्स पे लिखे रहते हैं बुक्स के नेम, जैसे विलासिंगाना की फ्लो डायनेमिक्स और विलासिंगाना की एरिया एनालिसिस. तो सर वो बुक्स के नाम.
I had got 100 marks in maths in class 10. Then my interview began like what was your score in maths on class 12. तो मे बी, और फिर उसके बाद मेरा ऑप्शन सब्जेक्ट मैथ्स था, तो मेरे से ज़्यादा पूछा गया. सो इट डिपेंड्स. ठीक है, यू कैन नॉट प्रेडिक्ट कि आपका इंटरव्यू किस डायरेक्शन में जाएगा. वो कम्प्लीटली उस मोमेंट पे डिपेंड करता है. बिकॉज दैट इज क्वाइट लॉजिकल. देयर आर सम प्रूफ्स वेयर यू हैव टू मग ऑल दीस स्टेप्स सो दैट यू कैन अवॉइड.
And at the during mains, you only get 2 days, 1.5 days to revise all the syllabus. So it definitely gets very bulky to revise all the proofs. And proofs are such that you cannot be thorough with all the proofs, even if you revise it again and again. So it's better to leave it if your basic work portion is not covered.
Sir, if you are throwing some questions like h square is equal to y square plus z square, so it may be possible that हम 2 अलग-अलग theorems से prove कर सकते हैं इस वाले क्वेश्चन को. So how we can select this theorem?
Whatever process you are following, just try to explain that using brackets, what kind of theorem you are trying, what kind of lemma you are trying to use.
If we are throwing any questions,
So 2 alternative methods.
okay.
Yeah.
So how we can select that we have to choose this method to prove that questions?
You can use any method, whichever is
They
shorter.
are not specifically asked to.
Yeah, you can use any method if it is not specified, isn't it? Depending upon time, space, you can make a call. Is it fine?
So is it necessary to show the calculation of the?
Not necessary, not too much necessary. Answer should be correct.
Trivial states.
Yeah. Answer matters much more. Answer matters much
In
more.
fact, skip the trivial steps because the space is very limited.
In questions like fields and all, you need to mention some kind of theory about the thinking that you are having by solving the question.
Yeah.
So do we need to mention it as a, like in literature, do we have to write, I'm thinking this, so I'm thinking this?
I think in modern algebra you need to mention those. You are asking about modern algebra, field theory, right? Yeah, that is a more theoretical topic. You have to mention.
So we have to mention in literature.
You have to mention.
So it is all about complex analysis.
Depends.
How step farming is done in Marchman?
I think it is given because I remember some of the questions on simultaneous differential equation. One question was there. So my one part was right, other was I did some mistake basically. So I think on that marks must have been given because the score that I was expecting, it was around that. One more question was there on linear algebra where the answer should have been 2, 3, 4, 5. I wrote 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 probably, something like this. One extra answer I gave. So I think in that also I got some marks. So yes, it is given.
You did a question in the class, you didn't get the answer. So how step farming is
No one knows. No one really knows. The paper was tougher, so I think they had been liberal while giving marks. So you will be given step marks, whatever you have written, you might get marks. In paper 1, I feel that answers would be completely correct. In paper 1, there is no leniency. In paper 2, since the questions have been tougher since last 2 years, you may get some marks from here and there.